Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be building a web application using Node.js, Express.js, and database integration. In order to be accepted according to our project, we must include a login, sign up, and dashboard. Let's see the respective codes and understand their functionalities. First, you have to create a weather folder. In that weather folder, you should create a weatherauth app, another folder. In that weatherauth app folder, you'll create a public folder. In public, you'll have several files like home, index, login, and script.js. Okay, let's proceed with one by one and how they work. Okay, let's see one by one. First, we'll go with the home.html. If we see home.html, we can first see the HTML code. It is a standard HTML5 page with the doc type HTML declaration, meta tags for encoding, and responsive design. The title is the weather app title since we are giving a weather app. And next, we'll proceed with the code. What we should do next is we have style here. So next, this is the CSS code. Will be giving the body has a sky gradient background. The moving clouds are implemented with the position is absolute and all. This is the HTML and CSS code. And next, as we go, this completely comes under CSS. Now let's go to the main, that is the script. This all comes under CSS. Now the script functionality. What does scripts do? So here first we'll be taking the city input from the user. We'll send a request to get telling that give us get or weather or city. It expects a backend API at this endpoint. It processes the response. The first will the try block get executed. We'll use try if we think there will be some exception occurred, and then the cache block will be given for try block. So for suppose for every type try block there must be a cache block. We know it earlier. So it processes the response. If successful, it displays the city and country name, temperature, weather description, and humidity. If not, if an error occurs, it shows a error message. Logout function. This logout function is used to show you have logged out, and it is later redirected to login.html. This is how home.html page is designed. Now let's go to index.html. What is done in index.html? Here, as usual, we know about the this HTML code and the CSS code which is given. So it sets the language to English and then ensures that the page is using responsive design and all. Next, we'll have a CSS code body dot cloud dot cloud. When all this comes under CSS, these all parts are written below. And to mention what is the cascading style sheets for them, we'll mentioning it there. It creates a wide form container. Three input fields, name, type equals to text, and like that we'll have. And next, if we come, this all comes under CSS. Okay. Now let's see how it's done. We'll come back. Okay, script code, which is very important to discuss. What is there in the script code? Firstly, before going to script code, let's go here. Yeah, we'll start here. First, we'll retrieve the user inputs like name, email, and password from the form. Then we'll send the data to the server in the try-catch block. For every try block, there will be a cache block as we have seen earlier. And then sends a post request to the or register. Sends JSON data like email, password, and name. These all data will be sent to the Firebase console. And next, handling server response console.log. It tells us whether the registration is successful or not. It will tell us if it's okay, yeah, it is successful. Otherwise, the registration is failed. It will show that. And the next, if the response is successful, it shows registration successful. If some error had occurred, then your error during registration is done mentioned. Okay, this is how the index.html code works. Now let's see how the login.html code works. As usual, we know the HTML code and CSS code, how it works. So let's focus mainly on the JavaScript code. Here we have the JavaScript code, yeah. We have a login function first. What this is login function do? It handles the login process when the user clicks login, then it goes there and it performs several logins. Suppose it handles login process when the login button. Firstly, we'll get the user input. We fetch the value from the users like email and passwords. Then we'll send login request to the user. We'll send a HTTP post request to or using fetch. The request body contains email password in JSON format. So here JSON.stringify, that's why it will be in JSON format. Next, handle response. Response will be handled. Suppose if the login is successful, an alert is shown and the user is redirected to home.html. If login fails, then an error message is displayed with the HTTP status code and response text. How error is handled? If an error occurs, suppose for example a network issue, an alert will be informed to the user. This is how this code works. Now let's see how script.js works. First, this is JavaScript implementation that how works with Firebase authentication for user login, registration, and token-based authentication for making secure API requests. Here is a breakdown of the functionality. First, Firebase setup is done, initializing Firebase. Uh, so initialize Firebase. Firebase configuration will initialize the Firebase app using configuration details like API key, project ID are stored in an environment variables. We'll get the authentication with the initialized app. Next, event listener or the here DOM content loaded. Here we have mentioned C in the code. So what's event listener and DOM content loaded? The listener ensures that the code runs only after the HTML document is fully loaded. Authentication token management is like get ID token. Here we have used it. This synchronous function retrieves the current user's Firebase ID token, which is necessary for making authenticated requests. If the user is authenticated, it returns the token. Otherwise, it returns null. This ID is used to recognize the API request by including it in the authorization. So fetching data with authorization. Here we have how to fetch the data with authorization. Uh, so this function, what does it does? It fetches data from a URL, including the ID token in the authorization header for secure request. Then handling authentication. Handling authentication state is like it is checked, and if the user is not logged in, they are redirected to the login page. If the user is logged in, then the weather data is asked to the user, and the user can get the data. If his use is over, then he can log out. Sign up from handling. Okay, when the user submits the sign up form, an API call is made to the server with the email ID and the password made to the made used, and that will be stored in the Firebase successfully. If the login fails, then error message is displayed. So here we'll be performing authentication, token-based requests, dynamic content, and redirects. The script is a client-side implementation that ensures only authenticated users can access certain parts of the application, like fetching weather data and manages the session security. This is how it's done. And now let's see how this server.js works. Um, Firstly, we'll start with this. Yeah. Setup and configuration. First, we'll use Express for web framework for sorry web framework for building the API. Cause this is allows cross-origin requests, enabling front-end applications to interact with the servers. Next, Firebase authentication is done. .env Axios path, all this is done. The Firebase configuration will be doing next. Then Express server setup is done. Then user registration is done using the post method. It ensures that the email and password are provided, prevents duplicate emails. Firebase authentication is done. Real-time database that is the stores user details in the users in the Firebase. On success, returns through user ID and mail. On failure, handles error like email already in use. Next, user login. In user login, you will be asking the user to log in based on their mail ID and the password they have entered previously. Then we'll fetch the weather data based on the city given by the user. Then server start. This app listens on the defined port and logs a message when the server is running. To summarize all this, we can say that firstly, user authentication is done. Register or login using the Firebase. We'll store the user data in Firebase real-time database. Then fetching the weather data using Open Weather app. Cost handling to allow API access from different origins. Then we secure environment variables for Firebase and API keys. This is how we do this. Now let's see how it works. Firstly, let's uh, run the code. Wait. We'll run the command node server dot js. Okay, server listening at HTTP. Like we'll enter this. We'll follow this link. And then I'm already registered. So if you have not registered yet, so you'll enter your name, email, and password. If you have registered, then you'll go to the login. This is a colorful websites, clouds, and all that represents weather forecast we are weather forecast weather information we are giving. The next, the password which I've kept previously, I'll be entering that. And then I've logged into my account. Then it says login successful. You'll click on OK. You'll enter the city name. Suppose I'm entering Bhimavaram. Then I need to get the weather. See, weather in Bhimavaram is temperature 26.62 degrees Celsius. Description, we have few clouds. It's a basic description about the weather. And the humidity is 74%. Then if I wish, I could log out. Yeah, I'm logged out. Now this is how it works. This is the web application using Node.js, Express.js, and using the Firebase integration. Thank you. Thank you so much.